Aleppo Reborn. A major conflict during the Syrian Civil War between 2012 and 2016 had a profound impact on Syria's landscape and highlighted the severe humanitarian crises associated with prolonged urban warfare. As the first streaks of dawn cut through the night over Aleppo, the city lay enveloped in an unusual silence, disturbed only occasionally by the distant rumble of a vehicle or the faint bark of a stray dog. It was a silence laden with anticipation, a temporary pause in the daily struggle for survival. Ahmed had not slept. Seated on the broken steps of what was once a bustling marketplace, he stared into the distance, his eyes tracing the outlines of demolished storefronts. The ceasefire had brought an eerie calm to the city, but the scars of war were deep, etched into the very stones and souls of its residents. Each bullet hole in the ancient stone walls around him told a story of sudden terror and shattered lives. In the solitude of dawn, Ahmed remembered a different Aleppo, a city vibrant with the sounds of commerce and laughter, where he had walked these same streets as a university student with dreams that reached beyond the horizon. Now those dreams lay as broken as the rubble he sat upon. The morning air was crisp, a reminder that despite the desolation, the cycles of nature persisted. Ahmed pulled his tattered jacket closer, feeling the fabric's roughness against his skin. In the distance, the call to prayer began, a solitary voice rising above the ruins. It was a call that once brought the community together, now a poignant echo of unity in a fractured city. Ahmed's group, a band of rebels who had taken up arms after the government forces besieged their city, was small but determined. They had all lost something irreplaceable, their homes, their families, their peace. The ceasefire was a necessary reprieve, a moment to gather strength and tend to their wounded, but no one harbored illusions about its permanence. As the sun rose, casting long shadows across the broken pavements, Ahmed rose too. He walked through the marketplace, his steps cautious but steady. Each corner of this place held memories of laughter and bargaining, now replaced by the silence of abandonment. The dawn light revealed the extent of destruction, shops gutted by fire, streets cratered by shells, a cityscape in ruins. Yet, amid the devastation, life stubbornly pushed through. Ahmed noticed a fig tree, somehow unscathed, rising defiantly against a backdrop of collapsed masonry. Its leaves whispered in the gentle morning breeze, a testament to resilience. Returning to his makeshift headquarters, an old school building repurposed into a rebel stronghold, Ahmed prepared for the day. The ceasefire might hold, but they had to be ready for anything. Maps were rolled out on battered desks, and plans whispered in hushed tones. Every member of the group knew the stakes. Each operation could be their last. As Ahmed plotted routes and marked positions, the responsibility weighed heavily on him. He was no longer just a student of history, he was living it, writing it with every decision he made. The burden of leadership was thrust upon him by circumstance, and he bore it as best he could, driven by a vision of a free Aleppo, a city restored to its former glory, a place where the laughter of children could once again fill the streets. The brief calm of the ceasefire shattered like glass under the roar of artillery fire. Ahmed's heart raced as the familiar sounds of war echoed through the streets, a stark reminder that peace was but a fleeting shadow in the ongoing storm of conflict. Back at the makeshift headquarters, the mood was tense. Ahmed and his fellow fighters scrambled to their feet, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. The walls of the old school vibrated with the impact of distant explosions, dust falling from the ceiling with each tremor. The ceasefire had been too good to last, a mere pause in the relentless rhythm of war that had consumed Aleppo for months. Gathering his unit in the dimly lit command room, Ahmed spread out a worn map across a battered wooden table. The map was marked with dozens of annotations, symbols of past battles. The room was filled with the sound of hurried voices and rustling paper as plans were drawn and redrawn. Reports say government forces are advancing from the west, one of Ahmed's scouts reported, his voice urgent. The west was heavily fortified, a labyrinth of destroyed buildings and sniper nests, a deadly terrain that had claimed many lives. The group's strategist Layla, a former architecture student, pointed to several key locations on the map. Her knowledge of the city's layout was invaluable, her transition from student to military tactician driven by necessity rather than choice. Ahmed nodded, considering each suggestion with grave attention. Every decision could save or cost lives, and the weight of this responsibility was never light. Prepare for urban combat, he instructed firmly. Check your equipment and make sure every entry point is covered. We can't afford any surprises. Outside, the sky turned a dull, grey, heavy clouds mirroring the mood of the city. The air was thick with tension, punctuated by the distant sounds of gunfire and artillery. Ahmed stepped outside for a moment, needing to feel the cool breeze on his face, to gather his thoughts away from the crowded room. The streets were deserted, the civilians who remained in Aleppo having learned to seek shelter at the first sign of conflict. Ahmed's eyes were drawn to the remnants of a mural on a nearby wall, a colorful depiction of peace doves that now seemed almost mocking in its optimism. The contrast between the vibrant paint and the bleak surroundings was stark, a reminder of everything that had been lost. Returning inside, Ahmed's focus was clear. "This is our city, our home," he declared to his unit, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We stand together, we fight together, and we will endure together. Let's show them the heart of Aleppo is not easily broken." As the fighters readied themselves, checking their rifles and ammunition, there was a palpable sense of unity among them. They were not just a band of rebels. They were a family forged in the fires of adversity, each member driven by a shared vision of reclaiming their city from the clutches of tyranny. The relentless pace of battle had ebbed slightly as dusk approached, leaving a deceptive stillness over the war-torn city. Ahmed took advantage of this momentary lull to wander through the rubble-strewn streets of his childhood neighborhood. Each step was a poignant reminder of what had been lost to the ravages of war. As he walked, Ahmed's boots stirred the dust of devastation that blanketed the city. The familiar landmarks of his youth were now barely recognizable, transformed into hollowed-out shells of their former selves. It was here, among these ruins, that the past whispered to him, each echo a fragment of his former life. Approaching what remained of his family home, Ahmed's heart tightened. The building was partially collapsed, its walls pockmarked with bullet holes and scorched by fire. The garden where he had played as a child was overgrown and wild, nature reclaiming the land in the absence of human care. Amidst the debris of the living room, where his family had once gathered for meals and celebrations, Ahmed noticed a glint of glass. Cautiously, he cleared the dust and rubble to reveal a family photo. The glass cracked, but the faces still smiling, frozen in a happier time. His fingers trembled as he traced the outlines of his parents and younger sister, all lost to the conflict. For a long time, Ahmed remained there, lost in memories. The laughter of his sister, the wisdom in his father's stories, the warmth of his mother's embrace, all haunted him like ghosts in the twilight. Finally, gathering his strength, Ahmed rose. He pocketed the photo, a tangible piece of his past to carry forward. As he exited what was left of his home, he looked back once more, a silent promise forming in his heart. He would fight not just for Aleppo's future, but to honor the memory of those he had lost. The sky darkened, and the first stars began to appear, twinkling faintly above the shadowy silhouette of the city. Aleppo's nights were never truly dark, sporadic flashes of gunfire and explosions punctuating the darkness, a stark reminder that the war was far from over. But amidst the omnipresent signs of conflict, there were also signs of resilience and life. In a small sheltered alley, a group of children played quietly, their laughter a defiant sound amidst the cacophony of war. Their presence rekindled a flicker of hope in Ahmed's heart. Aleppo was wounded, but it was not defeated. Aleppo was. Returning to his comrades, Ahmed felt a renewed sense of purpose. Sharing the story of his visit to his old home, he reminded them of what they were fighting for. Not just the land, but the soul of their city, the memories of their loved ones, and the future of the children who still called Aleppo home. The city of Aleppo, under the cloak of night, transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and dangers. The darkness was both a friend and foe to Ahmed and his comrades as they prepared for a high-stakes operation designed to intercept a critical supply route used by government forces. Before departing, Ahmed reviewed the plan with his team in the dim light of their hideout. Maps were illuminated by the faint glow of a lantern, casting large shadows on the walls. The atmosphere was thick with tension, each member of the unit aware of the operation's risks and the potential cost of any misstep. The team moved out under the cover of darkness, the only sounds the soft scuffling of their boots on the debris-strewn streets and the distant rumble of artillery. Every shadow could conceal an enemy, every silence could precede a firefight. Ahmed led the way, his senses heightened, constantly scanning the environment for any sign of movement. As they neared a particularly treacherous stretch of road, the silence was shattered by the sharp crack of a sniper rifle. Instantly, the team scattered, seeking cover behind the ruins of a bombed-out car and the walls of crumbling buildings. Heart-pounding, Ahmed peered through the darkness, trying to spot the glint of a scope or the shadow of their assailant. "East rooftop!" hissed Layla, spotting the sniper's perch. A quick exchange of gunfire ensued, the sharp, echoing blasts a stark contrast to the night's quietude. After a tense few minutes, the threat was neutralized, but the danger was far from over. The gunfire could have attracted more attention, and they needed to move quickly. The team pressed on, weaving through the city's scarred heart, every step forward hard-earned. As they crossed the ancient stone bridge that marked the halfway point to their target, a sudden explosion nearby sent them diving for cover. Dust and debris filled the air, the night briefly as bright as day, under the flare of the explosion. Coughing and disoriented, Ahmed regrouped with his team. A quick head count revealed that all were shaken but alive. "We're almost there. Stay focused," he urged, leading the way with renewed urgency. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached the supply depot. It was lightly guarded, the enemy not expecting an attack in the dead of night. The team set to work quickly, planting explosives and sabotaging equipment. Every moment was critical, every action precise. With the mission accomplished, they retreated as stealthily as they had arrived, the depot going up in flames behind them, casting a fiery glow over the night sky. It was a small victory, but in the war for Aleppo, every victory counted. Exhausted but alive, Ahmed and his team made their way back to their base as dawn began to break. The night had been a testament to their courage and resolve, a dark journey through the heart of their beleaguered city. After the harrowing night operation, the first light of dawn brought with it a sense of fragile peace to the battered streets of Aleppo. Ahmed and his team, weary but unwounded, made their way back to their makeshift headquarters. Each step towards safety allowed the tension of the night to ebb slightly, replaced by a profound exhaustion and the ever-present weight of responsibility that leadership demanded. Later that day, Ahmed received word that a convoy of international aid was scheduled to arrive in Aleppo. As the convoy entered the city under the protection of a ceasefire agreement, the residents of Aleppo came out to welcome it. Children ran alongside the trucks, waving and cheering, their laughter a sound of pure joy that cut through the usual din of conflict. The aid workers distributed packages with efficient compassion, their faces a mix of sympathy and resolve. Ahmed helped organize the distribution, directing people and ensuring that the most vulnerable received their share first. Amid the crowd, he recognized a face from his past, a former teacher who had taught him history in high school. The teacher's once robust frame was now thin and worn, but his eyes lit up with recognition and pride when he saw Ahmed. "You've become the protector of Aleppo," the teacher said, clasping Ahmed's hands with trembling fingers. His words were a reminder of the many roles one could be called to fill in times of war. The rest of the day passed in hard work and cooperation. The community came together, sharing stories and supplies, reinforcing the bonds that the war had strained but not broken. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the city, there was a palpable sense of accomplishment and unity. That night, in a small, cleared area of what used to be a public park, a makeshift cinema was erected. An old projector displayed a film onto a blank wall, and for a few hours, the residents of Aleppo could escape into a world of stories and dreams. Children giggled, and adults allowed themselves a momentary respite from their sorrows. Ahmed stood at the back, watching not the film, but the faces of his people illuminated by the flickering light. In these moments, he saw not just the hardships they endured, but the hope and strength that sustained them. As weeks turned into months, the intensity of the conflict in Aleppo gradually diminished. With a fragile peacetaking route, the focus shifted from survival to rebuilding. Ahmed, once a soldier in a war-torn city, found himself taking on new roles: a community leader, an organizer of reconstruction efforts, and an advocate for peace. Early one morning, as the sun rose over Aleppo, casting a warm glow on the damaged but enduring cityscape, Ahmed stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. Below him, teams of workers were busy at various sites, clearing rubble, repairing roads, and restoring electricity. Cranes dotted the skyline, symbols of progress and hope. Children headed to school, their backpacks a colorful contrast against the backdrop of gray buildings. The sound of laughter and the rhythmic clinking of construction provided a soundtrack to a city in recovery. Ahmed felt a profound connection to each hammer swing and every new brick laid. It was a rebuilding of his home, of his life, and of the community he loved. The international community had not forgotten Aleppo. Aid continued to flow, alongside volunteers from around the world, bringing skills, hope, and the hands needed to rebuild. Ahmed worked closely with these teams, learning new skills and sharing his intimate knowledge of the city's needs. One day, a festival was organized in one of the main squares, recently cleared of debris and repaired. It was a celebration of Aleppo's spirit. Stalls lined the square, offering traditional Syrian dishes, handmade crafts, and art. The festival drew people from all over the city, their faces bright with smiles, their hearts lightened by the festivity. As the day turned to evening, the setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. Ahmed climbed back to the rooftop from where he had started his day. Looking out over the city, he saw the lights flickering on in homes and streets, a testament to the enduring spirit of Aleppo's people. The road to recovery was long and fraught with challenges, but for the first time in years, Ahmed felt a genuine sense of optimism. Aleppo would rise again, not just rebuilt, but reborn. If you found this video informative, kindly give us a like, share, and click subscribe, as this motivates us to produce more content. You can always join the discussion by dropping your comments in the comments section. Don't forget to switch on the notification bell to receive alert when we drop new content.